It's Wednesday, July 22nd, 2020. I'm Larissa, and Omar is here with me. Make a sound because you're not in the frame. And Brody is laying on the floor, and the fish are present. Sassy's somewhere sleeping. And today is our 20-year wedding anniversary. We've been married for 20 years. What time is it right now?
2:35.
All right. This time, 20 years ago, it'd be about 5:30 in the evening.
Mm-hmm.
We were at the reception. Joel and Rachel were smooching outside. Emily Edie was embarrassing. What was Tom's last name? Atkinson. Totally embarrassing. Tom Atkinson dancing around him after the garter toss. Karen Zam was still Karen Zam, showed up late and brought me a copy of the Kama Sutra. What else? My dad was passing out cigars.
Dollar dance.
Dollar dance. Shots of apple pucker.
Circle dance.
Circle dance. Circle dance was just before we went home.
Yeah.
Dollar dance. How much money did we get from the dollar dance? We got like $350.
I don't
No, I counted all the money that the next morning. That's what we did because we went to my parents' house for brunch before we left for the airport, and my mom had all of the money, the cards and the money, and we opened all of the cards and the money to take some of the cash with us to Vegas because we were broke as fuck. There being like $350 in the dollar dance bag. How much cash did we get as gifts total? I'm trying to remember. It was something like $4,000, I think, a little over $4,000 total that we got in cards and things. Oh. No. I am using my angel cards. I am not using the Osho Zen deck. The Osho Zen deck is the deck that I reserve for doing my annual New Year's Eve reading, as well as what I use to read for others who specifically come to see me for readings. So this is the deck that I use for like my personal inquiry. Not always necessarily about my own life, but about like other things. When I read cards, right? This is my personal consultation deck. And this deck was created by Doreen Virtue, one of the other big woo-woo ladies out there. Big woo-woo queen, right? Big woo-woo queen. Where did she live? She lived down in Hawaii. Doreen Virtue.
Mm-hmm.
I watched her stuff in the past. So I'm gonna do a diamond spread, which is the read that I do for other people. And I'm just looking at energy right now. I'm not asking any specific questions. And I've been married 20 years. The world was a very different place when we got married. Shortly after we got married, I had miscarriage, graduated from college, we moved to California, 9/11 happened.
Yeah, a year later.
A year later?
Yeah. Over a year.
Yeah, it was after we had moved out to California. We'd been out here for what, like 6 months when that happened? Approximately. Less than 6 months.
Oh my God.
Yeah, we moved out in May.
4 months.
And it was in September, so May, June,
5
July.
months.
Yeah. And so now here we are in the current situation of the pandemic and everything. All right. center card, this is looking at the inquiry, and so my inquiry is very open-ended. It's a Knight of Air. Intelligent, decisive, idealistic, tireless. Events that occur with great speed. Take time to carefully review your options. Creative solutions.
What's that card for?
This is the initial inquiry, the energy of the initial inquiry. So this is the greeting card. It's the opening, right? So anybody could look at this read and take from it. That's how I read. It's not. Next card is forces at play that you may not be. It's the Eastern card that you may not be aware of. Five of Fire, competing goals, bothersome details, conflict with others. Well, I don't think there's anybody on this planet who's not aware of those kinds of things right now, but I think what the card's talking about is that the things that you're not aware of, you're really like are so out in left field that like you're just not even thinking of them. It's just like once it's revealed, it'll be like, oh my God, that's what was going on. This is the Western card now that I'm picking, and these are forces at play that you're probably aware of. Two of Water, a relationship that continues to grow closer, forgiveness, the positive resolution of a conflict. That would be nice, wouldn't it? I know, like in my life, I would really like to see resolution in my relationships with my family, but for me, without apology or acknowledgement of what was done and what happened, I don't think that's ever going to be possible. I have lip gloss on and it has kind of like a perfume on it. And if I lick it, like if I get it in my mouth, it's weird. It's like it coats the roof of my mouth. It's just this, it's something that's in the product. Okay, this next card that I'm pulling is Course of Action. 21, the World, Archangel Michael card. Job well done, joy, contentment, and gratitude, the path towards enlightenment.
I'm used to the Osho Zen deck.
I know, it's because I usually read this privately. I don't usually read this deck publicly.
Yeah.
This is the deck that I usually read privately.
Are the cards the same?
I'll talk about that in a minute. Yes and no. We'll talk about it in a minute. The last card is Outcome. Nine of Air, expecting the worst, self-fulfilling prophecies, and sleepless nights. And I usually pull one more card, and I call this the Bodhi card. It's the external observer. So it's the big picture card. Seven of Earth, seeds well planted, a temporary pause in action, unnecessary worry. So this is, there are decks, there are tarot decks, and then there's some decks that are considered oracle decks. And the tarot decks that are considered oracle decks are decks that have been made by someone who is in an advanced stage of study or astrological study and or spiritual attainment or pursuit. I shouldn't say attainment, but pursuit. And are made with the specific idea or purpose of looking at the future, or of giving prophecy. I shouldn't say looking at the future necessarily, unless that's specifically what you're looking at. I don't specifically look at the future. I specifically look at present time, but they're used. They've been designed specifically for counsel or for mediation between a specific being or set of beings, celestial or spiritual beings, right? Whereas just like core tarot is based on what was coined a game, but it's not really a game. I mean, there's this whole idea about there being the game of life, right? And so each card in a traditional tarot deck has archetypes, right? There's traditional archetypes that each of them that each of the card represents. And so there's 4 suits in a deck, just like in a regular deck of cards, because playing cards came out of the historical oppression of people who read cards professionally as part of spiritual practice, where then other games could be played, right? And there was this that tarot was a game, in the way that life is a game, and these are the players in the game of life, right? And so that's what the archetypes are, the players in the game of life. And so you have like this is a major arcana card, the world card, and there's a version of the world card in every tarot deck. Let me see if there's some other ones. Like these just represent like some decks are cups, wands, swords, and discs. That's traditional medieval tarot suits. Like when I say medieval, I'm not just talking about medieval specific area, just that time period. So medieval years that are considered the medieval times. That's just before the Renaissance, the Dark Ages. When were the Dark Ages?
I don't know the exact date.
Anyway, that's where those archetypes were refined. But before that, they were practiced in other formats. Like runes are an early form of divination or of tarot, of mediumship. And same thing, symbols. You'll see a lot of these old ancient symbols in some decks. It just depends on the artist who has the artist and the spiritual master. There's usually 2 people who make a deck, unless the spiritual master is also a visual artist. And then sometimes you'll see that where a spiritual master will make their own deck. It's a lot. It's a lot of energy. It's a lot of energy to put out there to do that. So Doreen Virtue doesn't do the artwork. She works with an artist on her decks. Same thing with Osho. So like Osho worked with artists from his compound, from his commune, to create that deck. And then that other Osho deck, because there's a few different Osho decks. I read the Osho Zen, and that was the one that he created when they had their compound. And not because I have any attachment in any kind of way. It's just that deck and the imagery that was on it resonated with me. I don't have any connection with the Osho commune. I've never even knowingly met anybody from the Osho commune. But there's that other deck that I bought that's called an Osho deck. The other one that's in there, the one that I gave to you. That's that deck was created based on Osho teachings and principles by more contemporary followers. And all of the decks are like that, but there are core archetypes that are found in all decks that are called tarot decks. So you can get different kinds of divining cards for different things. But if the deck is designated specifically a tarot deck, it has these specific archetypes and has 4 suits, right? And oracle decks are a specific type of tarot deck. There's other card traditions, something they call medicine cards. Those are usually all of the cards that I've ever seen that have been titled medicine cards have been tied to different North American indigenous cultures. So those cards are usually talking about, depending on the tribe, different archetypical histories or mythical histories or spiritual histories of animals or of the spirit of the trees, or but those are all ones, like I said, I've seen, and I've seen there's lots of different ones out there have been centered around Native American teachings, and they don't. I mean, these are just a tool. Not all of those. A couple of them that I've seen have been tarot decks, but not all of them have been. And the ones that are not tarot decks, the ones that are, then it's not limited. There's not always there's not 4 suits. Like, I think that other Osho deck that I got, I don't think it's actually a tarot deck. I think that each card has a number on it, but they don't have suits. Each card is individually unique and not part of a set. Whereas in a tarot deck, it belongs to a set, one of the four suits, one of the 4 directions, 4 gospels. These numbers are all tied together. It's an interesting read.
Yeah.
I think it's very accurate in today's world. You can see some of the other cards that this deck has. That, like, this is a traditional archetype in tarot, the Lover's card, and it's always number 6. And so, like, each set also has a king, a queen, and a knight, and that is consistent within all tarot decks, and you see that then in the you see that in playing cards. Then it reads over in the 4 suits in playing cards. The 0 card is this is frequently called the Fool. In this deck they call it the Dreamer, and this is like the Joker in a playing card deck. The Joker is the Fool. So that's a traditional archetype. The Moon. This is a traditional archetype in the tarot deck. So these are major arcana cards. The other ones that are smaller numbers, those are minor arcana cards, and they have different meanings. Yeah. And so the Page of Earth. You see Page, the Knight, the King, the Queen. You see those in traditional tarot decks, and then it's usually like Page of Cups or whatever. Those are Queen of Water. Here's another archetype, the Magician. This is a traditional tarot archetype. 5, they're calling this the Unity card, and I think that this one is usually, they call it the Hierophant.
The what?
The Hierophant, the priest, the high priest. That's in traditional tarot. Another one, the Emperor or the King, the Emperor card. This is a traditional archetype in tarot. The Wheel. The Wheel is a traditional archetype, going back to as far as the Thoth, which is, I think, acknowledged as like the first organized, widespread, widely used deck. Usually, like, the Sun card. This is another 4 is the Hanged Man. Where is that? Here's. I thought 4 was the Hanged, and this is the Emperor. So she placed the Emperor as the 4. Because the Empress, the Emperor, is 5 the Hanged Man? I'll have to look at my stuff. I mean, one of them's the Hanged Man. Renewal. This is also a major arcana card, and I can't remember which archetype. Like, the number that's at the top of these cards, like this, when you see them, these correspond to the traditional archetypical archetypes, the major arcana cards. Those correspond to the major arcanas in other decks. The star. So some of them she's called other things, but the star, you see the star in. This is the Aquarian card. I can't remember what this. And this is another one of the ones. She's calling it strength. I don't know what this one. I can't remember. I have to pull out my. I have a book. I have a book that lists them all. I'm trying to find. Where is it? Oh, the Hermit. This is a traditional. This is major arcana. That's a traditional icon. And I don't know what she calls justice. I don't know. What's number 8? The Chariot. The Chariot is a traditional archetype.
Yeah.
Here's one. She's just calling life experience, but that's not what it's called in traditional tarot. High Priestess is number 2. High Priestess, that's a major. Balance. 3. What is the Death card in tarot? That's the Nothingness card in my Osho deck. But what number is it? Does it correspond to? I have to look that up. What number does the Death card correspond to? And then I'd know, because she's called one of the other ones. She's called the Death card. I haven't read this deck in a while. But the only major arcana in this reading is the Course of Action, and that's the World card. Seen me do a read with this deck? It wouldn't surprise me if you didn't, because like I said,
I think I have, but not like.
I've never, like, you've just seen me pull the cards. You haven't seen me talk about it. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Anyway. Ready to go play some darts and then have our anniversary dinner.
Mm-hmm.
Come over here and give me a kiss.